Well, I think the way to think about it, or the way we think about it is, if you focus on K through 12, it's been 100 years. We educate everybody on the planet the same way, right? It's put them in a classroom, 6 hours a day, teacher in front of the classroom. And that was actually 100 years ago, the best way to educate the population, right? And it is the most equal thing on earth. You can be in the poorest school district in any country in the world. There's a teacher in front of a classroom. The building's not very nice. Or you can go to a really expensive private school and there's a teacher in front of the classroom in a nice building. But it's the same mechanism. And, sort of where Alpha came from was if you stepped back and said, okay, guy's coming, the world's going to be different in 10 years. And you have a kindergartner and you're like, am I preparing them, for a dozen years from now, right? What would that be? And you rethought this from the ground up. How would it be different? And so that's what we did is we just sat there. And the first thing, back to the experience, the first thing that we said was, if you're going to send kids in this for a decade plus, they must love school. That is just a design goal, right? I'm a product guy, right? And so I just look at this as a product manager where I'm like, how would you design a product? And so the first thing you'd say is they should love school. And we literally measure it we ask kids every 8 weeks, do you love school?
We have like an NPS score.
Absolutely. 90+%, 96% in the last one said they love school. We actually had to ask a new question because it got so high, it was sort of useless to ask that, is we say, do you love school more than vacation? And 40 to 60% of our kids, each 8 weeks, depends on the workshops and whether they're really cool or what their vacation choice is. But we sit in we want to strive to build an environment that if we're going to send your kid there for a decade plus, like they should love it more than vacation. Right? My highlight, I've been principal for 3 years, was a few months ago in the spring, 2/3 of the high school students sent me a note and said, can we keep the school open this summer? We don't want summer.
What?
Right? And I did not like school. And what I went through was not that. I got in trouble for skipping school all the time in high school.
Yeah, you dropped out of Stanford
and
too.
I dropped out of college for the same reason. And, but that is crazy. But that is what our design goal should be, right? If you're going to rebuild school and your kids, right, it should be that. And
but don't people even push back on you on that? Like, I know my parents were like, you're not supposed to like it. You're supposed to go. You're supposed to listen. It teaches you discipline. So do you get pushback? Like, should we actually love school?
So I didn't start Alpha. It started a decade ago plus, and Brian and Mackenzie started it. And there's a long story on getting my own kids in it. But when I sat down with Brian, when my kids went in a decade ago, I said, what are the things I don't know as a parent that I'm wrong about, about education? And he's like, the first thing is kids must love school. And I was like, it's spinach.
Yeah.
It's spinach. He's like, you are so wrong, Joe. And you will figure that out. And I can now tell you, now that I'm principal, if you want to build a great school, they do have to love it. And if you ask back to learning grit and hard work, one of the life skills we learn is grit and hard work, right? And our kids, all our 8th graders 3 weeks ago finished a Tough Mudder and crossed the finish line at the same time. It was a teamwork grit combo life skill workshop, right? And so kids will do hard things, right? But you want to do it in a framework where they love it.
Yeah. And hard doesn't always mean monotonous either.
No, those are two totally different things. They're exactly the opposite. If you want a kid to love school, it can't be monotonous. It is literally the opposite. And so that design goal of, you have to learn, you have to build a school that kids love. That is what unlocks kids' potential, right? Is they're doing it because they love it. The kids don't come in the summer because they're working on some monotonous. It's that they believe they're changing the world, right? The reason that team who's working on it is they're working on a project where they're building an app and their goal is to teach 100 million teens the key to their happiness is contributing to their community, right? And they're building that app and they're like, we are going to change the world with this app. It's going to be the greatest. They have all these influencers who are helping them.
Mine was like,
this.
Get an A- and no more, because what would be the point of that?
Right. And so this whole point, right, of exactly, I was the same way of, what's the minimum academics I could do to still get through the system?
Yeah.
This is, you want to engage kids on their passion, right? Starting in middle school, we start passion projects.